It has already been an Idlewild day at the LWS Open presented by Dynamic Discs and the Nati, and the day just keeps getting wilder. Tee times pushed back for the MPO round due to weather delays earlier in the day, but we are about to get started and we will play until the sun goes down in Kentucky. Grant Zellner alongside the big kahuna. It's Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. Terry, you literally inhaled lunch a few minutes ago, pretty late lunch for you, and now right back at it where conditions seem to be pretty good there on the course, perhaps a little more wind than yesterday, and a lead foursome heading out, all having gone double digits under par yesterday. Do you think that kind of performance is repeatable today?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, it is sunny, but the wind has picked up, and that's going to be the major difference that we're seeing from yesterday to today. I don't think we're going to have to worry about any rain or inclement weather from this point forward. We might be battling some form of darkness, or at least the sun going down on us, as you mentioned, but the wind has picked up significantly. In fact, just in the last hour or two, it has risen to the most wind we've seen all weekend, so that will be a factor.
Well, in the morning round, if you're just now joining us, the course played about 2 strokes harder on day number 2 than it did on day number 1, and some of the hardest hit players were the players on those last couple of cards out on the day. So players going out in final cards here in MPO action, hoping not to suffer the same slings and arrows as their counterparts did this morning during the round. They'll be led by a trio that went 12 under. Aaron Gossage, one of those 3. We caught up with Aaron after his hot round yesterday.
I'd like to pick up a birdie on hole 1. I think that I just caught a rock or something off the tee pad and slipped just a little bit, and that made me hyzer it out left. But threw a good upshot, made my putt. So the rest of the round, I was like, hey, you're throwing well. Just keep giving yourself opportunities. The way I look at this course is it's one where you have to give yourself opportunities off the tee. Try to hit the first gap on every hole, especially some of those wooded holes. And then from there, it gets a lot easier. If you're putting from circle 2, you're not taking any bogeys. So definitely accomplished that. Gave myself a lot of circle 1 looks as well. And my goal is going to be play a very clean round, try to be well within myself, get a lot of pars, and then birdie opportunities when they're there. And I think if I could shoot the same round again, that would be amazing. But from my standpoint, I'm just trying to get through the round tomorrow bogey free.
About all of our lead foursome, starting with Aaron. What is it about Aaron's game that it works and keeps him in the hunt at a place like Idlewild?
Well, Aaron certainly has no problems putting the right angles on his disc, and usually that comes in the form of a powerful, low-level forehand shot. And you can see him go. He of course has no problems with backhand shots as well, but he leans into that forehand. Anything that's bending from left to right on this course, there's a few tee shots that set up so well. One that jumps to mind immediately when I'm thinking about is hole number 14, a very tight tunnel, then it ultimately finishes off to the right. If you peer that gap and you get through the initial set of trouble, you can save yourself anywhere from 1 to 3 strokes compared to someone that gets caught up. So that's just one instance where I think it can be such a tool and a resource. And the one challenge that we see from Aaron is, does he have his putting under control? If his short range putting game is on, we know that he can be deadly, and he ended up putting near 100% from C1X yesterday.
Well, Gavin Babcock matched Aaron's hot round yesterday at 12 under par. One small difference, Gavin ends up carding 2 eagles on the day in addition to going bogey-free like just a handful of other players. We also managed to get a little time with Gavin after his round number 1.
I haven't played well here in years past, but I was like thinking through it, and I'm throwing like 13 forehand tee shots, and my forehand's just been so dialed lately. And so I was like thinking about that before my practice round yesterday, and I got just kind of a weird boost of confidence, like why aren't you playing good out here? And so I just kind of carried that into today, and forehand was dialed, just throwing the disc super well. There's only, I think, a hole 13. I kind of got a couple lucky kicks, and yeah, and then everything else, just putting felt great. All my circle 2 bids were good. and yeah, just kind of giving it a chance from everywhere.
Terry, a lot of viewers might not be as familiar with Gavin Babcock's game as they are with some other players. Can you describe for us in broad terms what Gavin does to get around the course?
Yeah, no shortage of power that comes out of Gavin Babcock. And you heard what I was just talking about. I genuinely didn't hear that ahead of time. He said he threw 13 forehands off the tee. So clearly that was part of the recipe for success yesterday in his round one. And then when you look at the stats, 100% C1X. Gavin really elevated himself and put his name in the forefront of a bunch of minds at Champions Cup last year. We know how difficult the W.R. Jackson course is. Idlewild, certainly not too far different in terms of how it plays out. So to see Gavin Babcock play well yesterday, not really a big surprise to me.
A third of our foursome on that final card for today is going to be Evan Scott. Evan Scott, a young player, a very recently turned pro and a recent amateur world champion. He won that world championship in Florida on a course where hitting a lot of tight gaps was paramount to him taking down that victory. Yesterday, he finished quite early in the day. He went out on a very early card and managed to post that 12 under par. What can you tell us about Evan Scott and his game as it continues to mature and round out?
Well, what we've seen from Evan Scott is some ridiculous C2 putting. That wasn't just from the ones you're seeing maybe right now as they're playing, but throughout the year, he cans putts from all over the place. I feel like at one point, if I think back, he had something like 3 C2 putts from 50 feet in 4 holes, or maybe it was even 3 for 3. Either way, Evan Scott not afraid to connect from long and downtown. And like you said, one of the many up-and-coming young superstars out there on the tour. He's done well earlier in this year, and I look forward to him being out there for many years to come.
I don't think it would be a stretch to say Evan is following in some ways in the footsteps of Gannon Buhr in terms of an up-and-coming player beginning to make a lot of noise on tour. Of course, Gannon Buhr already taking down USDGC. Gannon also, like Evan, a leader in the field in terms of C2 putts. We did catch up with Gannon yesterday, who wasn't sure if his 11 under would hold up near the top of the field, and sure enough, it did.
I'm not going to do anything different tomorrow. Today we actually felt really solid in terms of kind of just how I played overall. Maybe decision making. Like hole 2, I had like a circle 3 putt, so I was like just outside circle 2, and I ran it, and it got like the worst possible reaction off the basket. I skipped off the top, hit a tree, and then it rolled 30 feet in the water, and it's just like dumb stuff like that. And then just getting real shaky on 18, knowing what I had to do. I'm not sure. Couple like missed like long circle 2s, maybe like 60 feet-ish. I could maybe capitalize on a couple of those maybe, but overall it felt really good to come back after kind of a bad ledge stone. So I think it's really important to stay on the lead card because you want to make your competitors maybe mess up because of you throwing good shots. So you want to kind of put that pressure on, and with not being on the lead card, likely it's gonna be kind of difficult. So maybe they check scores and stuff, and you can kind of start hot in round 2, and then maybe they'll be checking and kind of shakes them up a little bit, I guess. I don't know.
Terry, I think it's noteworthy hearing Gannon talking about wanting to be on that lead card and wanting to interact with other players, putting pressure on them. We hear from so many players that talk about how they want to stay, inside their own game. They might not even want to look at scores. Here's Gannon wanting to put pressure on his card mates by throwing great shots. And I think that is the sign of a different kind of competitor, one that really knows how to go out and make things happen.
Or you could say maybe that's part of the YouTube generation. Either way, Gannon Buhr, he's been very blunt about this for the last few years. He said that he likes to play under the pressure. He likes to play with big galleries and people watching him. And as he just said, no problem with throwing a big shot to try and apply pressure to others. So it is a very different mentality, like you pointed out, from other players. And really what's exciting for me is to see Gannon bounce back. I remember seeing him last weekend at Ledgestone where he said he didn't perform well. And it was him and his mom in the parking lot at the Fly Mart. And he said, well, I might make the cut. And so that's not something you normally would hear Gannon Buhr remotely excited about, because he's expected to be there. And not just because he's taller than me, I'll say this, he's got a much higher floor than I do. So he takes bigger steps, he's got a much higher floor. Gannon Buhr seems to be back where he belongs on or near the top of the division this weekend.
Well, with a couple of featured cards just moments away from teeing off here in Kentucky, we don't want to leave you out in the dark in terms of what happened, perhaps while you were taking a nap earlier this afternoon at the LWS Open in Estonia. Four-way tie deep into the back nine, and then a round that came down to the 18th green before they were able to crown a champion. Highlights after the break on the Disc Golf Network.
I'm asked all the time, why do you play disc golf so much? The best answer I can think about is, there's just something about disc golf. You might think it's just like any other sport, but I can promise you this is not the case. Disc golf is the walking nature, the closing of your computer, the discipline that it requires, that sound of those chains. I don't know what it is. The whole world should have the opportunity to try it. Let's grow the sport.
My name is Ricky Wysocki. I founded the Saki Bomb Foundation as a nonprofit organization committed to growing the sport of disc golf with America's youth. The foundation's First Putt initiative puts 50 discs and one portable basket in the hands of PE teachers across the United States at no cost to the school. We've already sent First Putt packages to schools in all 50 states with the generous support from our sponsors. If you want to be a part of this movement, visit SakiBombFoundation.org. Thank you for growing the sport of disc golf with us.
On the Euro Tour, entering the 14th hole, a four-way tie at the top at the LWS Open. And then Daniel Davidson, his lead disappeared. Enter Maury Vilman, who trailed Jesse Niemanen by just one, stepping onto the 18th. A good drive by Jesse, and then this putt by... No, let me straighten that. A good putt by Vilman, and then this putt by Niemanen falls just a little bit short. So Vilman, for birdie on the 18th, it's a two-stroke swing. He goes from one back to the win by a single stroke over Jesse Niemanen. Maury Vilman, congrats. 27 under par, the champion at the LWS Open. Might be worth going back and catching some of that footage, as exciting as that finish was in Estonia. Back here in the States, Terry Miller on the ground with Danny Voss of the PDGA. Take it away, guys.
Yeah, welcome in. Danny Voss joins me, and as we're watching international play, we spoke yesterday about how we have so much coverage on DGN and how international play is taking place, but in order for that to happen, in order for big events, for majors to take place, there's a bidding process, and tell us where that's at and how they do it with the PDGA.
That's right, yeah, so any PDGA member can really bid on these PDGA majors. We have the 4 World Championships, U.S. Women's, Tim Selinsky, U.S. Masters, just to name a few, and those can be awarded to local organizing committees. All someone needs to do is search on Google or on the PDGA website, PDGA Major Bids 2025, and it'll come right up. There'll be bid packages with instructions and everything like that there, and then the staff is happy to answer questions. I mean, we want to be blown away by these bids, and we're happy to lend a helping hand.
Yeah, and this process has really grown throughout the last few years because really all of these LOCs, these local organizing committees, have elevated their game. People are putting in incredible bids. What are some of the things that LOCs should be looking to assemble and prepare? What are some of the things that they really need to, boxes they need to check?
Probably the biggest thing really is experience with running events. So, you should have run through your C tiers, B tiers, A tiers, that kind of thing. If you've run a Pro Tour event, that's excellent for your resume. But, the other thing is like just making the effort and submitting the bid. Yeah. Because once that comes through, that kind of registers with the PDGA staff and the board of directors, and they know, okay, this LOC is serious. We need to maybe reach out with them, network with them a little bit, enable them to put forth another bid next year if they aren't selected, because a no today is not a no tomorrow kind of a thing. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah, and that means that someone that's put together a solid bid might actually be a good fit for another major coming up.
That's right.
And so if you're already in the Rolodex, kids, ask your parents what a Rolodex is. But if you're in the PDGA's Rolodex, that helps. Well, that's what it takes to put everything together for a bid. And the PDGA, you can just search for it on Google or on the PDGA's website. That's Danny Voss. I'm going to throw it back to you, Grant.
A Rolodex. I thought that was a new disc mold coming out sometime later on in the fall. We've got a chase card getting ready to tee off for you, including Nate Hecker, Matty O, Calvin Heimberg, and of course, Jeremy Koling up there in contention. We can never pass up a chance to chat with Jeremy, so we did so after his first round.
Always out here at this course, staying clean off the tee. If you're staying clean off the tee, there's a lot of short par fours. Kind of crazy. We were just walking down 18. We were talking about it. There's only 5 par 3s in the course, and a lot of par 4s. The whole course is basically very technical par 4s. So if you just put yourself into position, you're giving yourself a chance. That's really the key to success out here. And I think that was the main thing that I was doing during that really nice stretch, was just giving myself a chance. And threw a couple good miracle shots, a long flick roller on the new hole 12 that set up a pretty short birdie putt. But other than that, it was just just staying clean for the most part and kind of getting through that last stretch.
It's a pretty stacked chase card, Terry. Jeremy Koling, certainly with the experience. We know what Calvin Heimberg has been doing all throughout the course of this year. What's it going to take for them to catch up and even pass those ahead of them on the card?
Well, as Koling just mentioned, there is a lot of technicality out here. Koling playing with those hyzer flips, those forehands that he's really well known for, and that's kind of his bread and butter. If Jeremy Koling can continue to push himself through this course in a clean fashion like he did yesterday, you can't necessarily count on going 9 under through 8 holes again, but Jeremy Koling certainly could put himself in contention for tomorrow if he keeps things clean.
Taking a look at the leaderboard there, we see that the challenges that the morning groups faced in terms of having a much tougher go in round 2 than round 1 don't seem to be impacting the MPO field. There's Cole Radalin on top after a very lackluster first day. He's up 55 positions. He's 11 down with 1 to go. A lot of other players with lots of holes left in their rounds are already 8 under. So it looks like scoring conditions pretty optimal. Is that what you're seeing, Terry?
If you went off a little earlier, your scoring's going to be easier to do than it is right now. The cards that are going off are experiencing the most wind that we've had all weekend. So if you got an early round in already, that's going to play in your favor. Cole Radalin's 12. I don't think anyone's going to get past a 12 under today.
Okay, so it sounds like we've got something of a benchmark for us all to be watching for as these final cards get out there on the course. We could measure how they're doing based on that goal of getting to 10, 11, 12 under par. Well, we've got to get going because we've got the chase card moments away from teeing off, and then the lead card will go off at about 5:15 local time in the eastern United States. So, Terry, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye for the two of us so you can head out on the course. For Terry Miller, I'm Grant Zellner. We will see you back here on Tournament Central tomorrow morning. We're going to play disc golf until dark tonight here at Idlewild. Thanks for watching.